Okay, so welcome to this general talk about portfolio building. I'm Darren Marshall, and this is Jake Abrams. Jake is here from Kingston University. I'm from Bonas MacFarlane. So Bonas MacFarlane's a London-based consultancy. So for the last 10 years, I've worked with students like yourselves, mentoring, tuition, specific to portfolios, helping students to understand how to build up a portfolio that reflects the courses that they're interested in. It's not something that I remember getting a lot of guidance from at school. And there is information online. If you look at course guidelines, they'll tell you, very briefly and loosely what they're looking for. And so there is information out there, but it's not the kind of process that there's one rule for everyone. So it is a process that does kind of benefit from a little bit of individual kind of contact and being a bit specific to the student, to their personality, to the courses that they're interested in. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how to build up your portfolio and generally also what the difference is between UK and US applications. Is anyone here interested in US applications? Is that a hand raise? Yeah. Good. Yeah, so it does slightly differ. So I think I'll just start there. Generally speaking, a UK application has various facets. There's the portfolio, there's the personal statement, there's the academic qualifications. And easily the most important, I would say, amongst those is your portfolio. Academic requirements, it's a grey area. They can sometimes be adjusted to accommodate students. A personal statement, very important, of course. It's how they start to get a sense of you and your personality. But those two things can be firing on all cylinders. And if your portfolio is not working, if it's not doing what it should be doing, it's not going to, gain you an offer. So the portfolio is really the thing that's going to get you the offer. A portfolio can turn, really good work into a terrible application if it isn't done properly. Conversely, it can turn, work that isn't too strong, shall we say, into a fantastic application if it's done well. So it is something that you really want to be spending a lot of time on in terms of researching what you should be putting in there, how you should be preparing it. As I say, the UK and the US are slightly different. The UK are probably going to be asking for anywhere between 20 and 30, even 40 images. It does vary enormously. Kingston will have its own remit. It can be as low as 10. So you're basically trying to kind of develop a lot of content digitally that you can then kind of edit and move around and vary to the different requirements of all the courses that you're applying to. Are you applying to foundation courses? Yeah? Do you all know what a foundation course is? Yeah, general head nodding. So yeah, portfolio requirements for foundation are a little bit different to degrees. So I'll come to that in a moment, but beyond the UK and the US, the differences generally are that UK 20 to 30 images, so quite a lot of work. US can be maybe down to around 10 to 15 images. So they're generally in their portfolios looking for a lot less imagery, but they're going to have another level of image-based content in terms of setting you application-specific projects. Probably the most well-known is the Parsons Challenge. So if any of you are thinking about Parsons in New York, they request the portfolio, let's say around 10 to 15 images, and then they also set an application challenge. So they specifically want you to create an artwork specifically for the application, which is kind of specific to your personality. They want it to reflect your interests. They want just 3 images of that, so 1 image of the outcome and 2 images of preparatory work. I have some of that content on my laptop, which I can show anyone who's interested in Parsons specifically. I was expecting a screen here that I could share that with you as a group. But that approach is very common amongst US applications and European applications, actually. Kingston as well. If you're applying to Kingston Foundation course, they have this wonderful project every year called 10 Things I Like, which is open completely to interpretation. So you can interpret the theme, 10 Things I Like, in any way that you want. If you go to the Foundation Open Day, which is always fantastic at Kingston, the course leader there will tell you about previous encounters with how students have engaged with that theme. They're looking for you to be innovative. You can spend months and months, years even, preparing your portfolio. These projects are supposed to kind of be a bit more spontaneous and tune into you a little bit more than the general portfolio preparation. I remember one year the course leader famously told me that one of her favorites was a student who had taken 10 photographs of the wall behind radiators that she'd removed, which I thought was fantastically unusual. But that gives you some kind of insight into what courses are looking for. Can you imagine how many portfolios these institutions look at? Can you imagine how many times in response to the question 10 things I like, people take photographs of things like Marmite, things I like, I don't like, very obvious kinds of responses. So I think the message I'm trying to get across is whether it's a UK or a US application, you're trying to just be a bit different, a bit less general, not making the same kinds of responses to portfolio requirements. You're trying to get some of your personality and your character into the process. You're trying to distinguish yourself from the avalanche of images that they're going to be encountering. How to do that, of course, is another question. But that's the kind of general gist of it. A lot of you are basing your portfolios around the school curriculum. You're probably studying fine art or graphic design, or maybe it's textiles. You're probably doing lots and lots of sketchbook work and not many finished pieces. This isn't a criticism of the schools. That's just how A-levels and IB exams are kind of built. So you should be thinking about extracurricular content. How are you going to get more than you're allowed through your school studies into your portfolio? How are you going to get more outcomes? How are you going to get a broader range of techniques and media into your portfolio? So that's something that I work on with the students that I work with, but not something that you necessarily need someone to guide you with. But your research should be informing you about this kind of thing. Portfolio examples that you can see online. That breadth of media that they're using, good portfolios, the breadth of media that those portfolios have, it's not coming from the school curriculum exclusively. And it's not uncommon for students that I work with for their portfolios to only have about 20 or 30% of its content coming from their school work. So that tells you something about how much effort you guys should be putting into your portfolio outside of school time. I work with all sorts of students, all sorts of clients. You should be one of those students who goes home and does art because you love doing art, not because you have a portfolio requirement of 20 to 30 images. Art should be something that's coming from your love and enthusiasm and passion for making. So hopefully you're getting time to kind of make work that lies outside of the school's requirements. Weekends, whatever, evenings. Use that time to kind of explore the kind of work that you're seeing in portfolio presentations online, the kind of work that you're seeing in graduate showcases on course websites, as well as going to open days to educate yourself over the next month or two. Autumn's the time for institutions to have their open days. Hopefully in the summer, maybe you visited some foundation and degree shows so you could see final work, so you could look into your own futures, if you like, and see the kind of breadth of work that students who are coming out of the courses that you're looking to go into are making. You should be constantly kind of feeding this awareness and this kind of understanding of what's out there, what your possible courses are, what those courses are looking for, what kind of art you like making, what kind of design you like making, what comes to you kind of naturally, where do your inclinations lie, therefore what kind of courses appeal to you. So as I say, the portfolio is by far the most important part of your application. The portfolio should be built around the courses that you decide to apply to, and the decision to apply to courses should come from this kind of research that I'm talking about. As I say, the school curriculum is very narrow. If you're doing fine art or graphic design, how are you going to know about the 20 or 30 or so variations of graphic communication that you can study out there? And all of those subject areas that you don't even touch upon at school, product design, it's endless, architecture, things like that you don't study at school. And unless your parents are doing those kinds of subjects, you're not going to have much of an awareness of them. So, how many people are in the final year of A-levels? And how many in the year before that? Good. So if you're in your final year, you're kind of 2 or 3 months away from the application submissions. You can get a lot done in that period of time. If you've got a 40-month, 50-month window between now and then, then fantastic. You know, you've got a lot of time to explore this potential for making extracurricular projects. So I'm basically going to stop talking for a little bit and let Jake say something, and then I'll kind of respond to what Jake said. And like I say, I've also got portfolio examples on my laptop, which I can share with any of you afterwards if you like. Okay? All right, Jake.
Okay, well, actually, I've got nothing to say now because that was so good, so incisive. Yeah, so I'm Jake from Kingston School of Art in London, and yeah, just to add to that, it is really difficult when you have a curriculum and to think, well, how can I think beyond it? Because if you want to get into one of the good courses, you're going to have that very personal work that really describes something about you lot, you as a person and your aspirations in your subject areas. If you are wanting to be a fashion designer, do you need a fashion design portfolio? To an extent, yes, but all the other stuff too, the stuff that gets you out of bed in the morning, the stuff that makes your brain tick over, will probably make the difference. The stuff that stands out, that makes you different from those other people. People like me, and I see a load of portfolios. I see too many portfolios, and so many of them are exactly the same. You think that's absurd, don't you? Because, you know, I'm a creative person. Well, actually, people don't apply creativity quite often to putting a portfolio together. And it is a creative process. There's a design process involved. What you put first, what you lead into, what you show, how you finish up, should all be planned. I've got a scrappy bit of paper here. Just putting, that's my best bit of work. That's my best bit of work at the end there as well. How do I show that I'm a creative, clever person beyond my school syllabus? Well, that will go here. Can I put those photographs in that I did of? Shall I make those sculptures? I think, yeah, you should show your a whole spectrum of your ideas about creativity. And the stuff that says stuff about you is essential. How big a portfolio should I have? As my good colleague said, yeah, the institution will define, say, well, here's 20 slides. Typically at Kingston, you have 20 slides. But one of those slides could be full of loads of imagery. So it could have quite several pieces within it. So don't think you've just got 20. The other thing that's really, really important is not just those finished pieces. Finished pieces, great. It shows where you got to, but the thinking on the way, how you try different iterations, how you try different stuff out is really, really important. We want to know on some of the good courses how you think and how you try different ideas, different permutations will really help us do that. I'm a great believer in captioning your work as well, because a lot of people, well, this is an interesting project. Well, this is about, don't write an essay next to it, but just some pithy comments about, I've made this bit of architecture because, or this is about, should go next to your work as well. And yeah, take some love behind your work as well. How you photograph it, how you scan it, how you present it, actually really adds up. You can get into courses. You can study a course in your chosen subject if you breathe in. But if you want to get into one of the good ones, you've got to do that extra stuff. You've got to stand out. And I would start early. Don't start when the school tells you or your present institution tells you to do it. Start being creative now. And really, I absolutely agree with my colleague. It should be in your blood. It should be something you love. So do it. Go into the night. Take those photographs. Build those things. That will express your individuality. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of really good points there. Some of the things that kind of sprung to mind is, Your portfolios will be taking kind of different directions. Some of you will be thinking about, for example, foundation diagnostic mode. You might not be quite sure about what you want to do at degree level, so you might be applying for a diagnostic foundation, or you might be applying for a specialist foundation. And that's going to have implications on the kind of portfolio that you're building. A diagnostic portfolio would typically have, fashion elements and graphic design elements and fine art elements and sculpture elements. So quite diverse, reflecting the breadth of your kind of current interests. Whereas if you were applying to, so Kingston is diagnostic. Most foundations are, by the way. For good reason. A foundation is essentially about expanding your awareness of what's out there. So most students are encouraged to do a diagnostic foundation. For the first part of a diagnostic foundation, you'll experiment broadly in all of these kind of key subject areas, and then after the first 2 or 3 months, you'll specialize, and then you'll start building a portfolio that's going to be suitable to a specialist area for your degree applications. But if you're applying to a diagnostic foundation, there's this particular kind of portfolio. If you're applying to an institution that does a specialist foundation, in London, for example, Ravensbourne or UAL, Camberwell, St Martin's, they have specialist foundations. It's a slightly different portfolio because you're showing that you're already starting to kind of be inclined towards a certain direction. So you want to kind of reflect that. Not too narrowly, a graphic communication specialist pathway at St Martin's Foundation should still have a broad range of technical approaches, because a portfolio for foundation is showing that you're an open person who's got an open mind and is there to learn. If they're looking at a portfolio that's very narrow in its remit, they're thinking this person's going to get onto the foundation course and they're going to keep doing what they know they're good at, and they're going to kind of just keep plowing that furrow in. That's not kind of what a foundation is looking for, for in a student. So yeah, foundation specialist and foundation diagnostic, slightly different portfolio approaches. If some of you are thinking about direct to degree portfolios, then that's one stage further in that kind of specialist reflection in your portfolio content. A lot of students that are going on to degree, not all, but a lot are post-foundation students. And if you imagine a foundation student, they've spent 12 months after school, not 12 months, it's a 9-month course. They spent 9 months exploring broadly and then starting to explore more narrowly and building up a portfolio of kind of specialist content. And those degrees are going to be getting a lot of applications from students who've got that and are reflecting in their work that specialist direction that's emerging. There are differences that I find between foundation and degree applications in terms of just quite specific content. Foundation applications usually have a bit of life drawing in them. Whether you're interested in a specialist architecture mode or fine art or diagnostic, because across the specialisms, life drawing just shows this fantastic ability to draw and capture information from observation. But it's very unlikely that you would have life drawing in a degree application portfolio. I mean, there's no rules.
Yeah, there aren't any rules. That's its beauty, but also it's really hard because actually there isn't a prescription for the perfect portfolio. But it's great to see some great drawing usually.
Yeah, I mean, a degree application will have a lot of drawing in. It's still a kind of desirable skill, but it's not usually, by the time you make a degree portfolio, measurable through life drawing, because you'll have probably moved on in your practice towards the end of a foundation pre-degree from the general approach to that life drawing kind of captures to using a drawing more specifically, whether that be drawings of buildings or drawings of textiles and fabrics, and cultivating a kind of illustrative technique for reflecting your fashion designs, that kind of thing. So you get recurrent kind of technical approaches, but the subject matter starts to become a bit more specific and a bit more mature and a bit more focused as you move from a foundation to a degree portfolio. Jake was absolutely right about the technical care and the love that you take over preparing your portfolio. I mentioned that great work can look terrible and terrible work can look great, and it's devastating to see a student who's submitted a portfolio of great work that's been photographed in low light, that hasn't been taken into Photoshop at least, and the brightness brought up, hasn't been cropped nicely, has been photographed at an angle. If that's my artwork, I should be photographing it looking directly down. not from an angle. It just looks terrible. It doesn't show the work off in all its glory. Try to take it with a camera, not your phone. It should be in focus. I mean, these things sound obvious, but out of focus, low lit, angled work I see in portfolios. So it sounds like I'm stating the obvious, but there are going to be people applying for the same places, and they're going to have taken that extra care and attention. You don't need a studio to photograph your work professionally. Go outside, make sure that you're not standing, between you and the sun, and you've got your head as a shadow on the artwork. So your work should be well lit, no shadows, directly from above, well focused. These things are going to just show that level of attention to detail. If you're interested in fashion, textiles, don't make a really interesting, unusual garment in your textiles A level and then photograph your friend wearing it standing in your bedroom in front of the wardrobe. Go out into the countryside and find a cow and get your friend to stand next to the cow, because it looks like you've really thought conceptually about why you want a cow in your photograph and that you actually hired the cow. And the people who are looking at your portfolio going, wow, this person made a lot of effort here. They're not going to think you've hired the cow. But it just communicates that you're making effort, that you care about your subject so much that you're willing to go that extra lengths, to kind of document your work and to capture it and to show it off. So yeah, how you document your work is critically important. And yes, a single image in a portfolio can also be a composite image. If I was working with a student on their portfolio, it just wouldn't be 20 or 30 single images. Think about where you're going to spotlight attention in the portfolio and when you're going to kind of give them a big burst of energy. So, maybe it's a single image for an outcome image, but maybe it's a composite image of 3 sketchbook pages for a development image. And I hopefully you've been reading the kind of portfolio guidelines online. They don't just want to see outcomes. They really want to see the journey. So the developmental work is absolutely critical. So sketchbooks are a kind of painful part of A-levels. They're not something that comes intuitively, instinctively to young artists. But well-organized, energetic, lively sketchbook pages accompanying your outcomes in your digital portfolio are critical to the process. I mean, literally, you could have 20 images of outcomes in your portfolio, and they could be outstanding. Institutions like Kingston, UAL, they have a grading criteria by which, well, not, I'm assuming, but some of them have grading criterias. And if they go through a digital portfolio that has no developmental work, even if you've got the most outstanding outcomes, you literally just won't get a place because you haven't fulfilled their portfolio requirements. You're just showing them that you haven't really read up or researched the course that you're trying ever so hard to gain entry to. So yeah, just make sure that you're showing the story as well as the outcomes.